Oh, hello, welcome everyone. So now our Hangout is live and we're recording. So I don't think anyone is watching us yet. It says 0 viewers, so we can wait a few minutes. People are on the Etherpad. Oh, sorry, Will, I pushed your
No, that's
name
all
down.
right. No, no worries.
Hey, join the video link now. We're live. Yeah, I don't know, is this link working? Maybe it's the wrong link.
On the Etherpad is the middle one. Which one's Twitter and which one's Get?
The middle one is Twitter, the last one's Git right now.
Oh, there, I see it.
Hey everyone, we're live. Join. Click the link on line 9. Okay, I'm going to try to join as a participant to see if it's working. Oh.
If you send me the participant link, I could.
Yeah, okay. I can watch. Oh, it's just not. Okay, it's not updating how many viewers we have. It still says 0 for me, but maybe people are watching. So I just watched myself for a little bit. Okay. So yeah, if you guys can put your names there, and for everyone watching, I'm sorry I can't see that you're actually watching. The link's just going to feed, not the Hangout. Oh yeah, so Dave, there's a limit on how many people can join the Hangout. So right now I've only invited the speakers to be speaking right now. So it goes to the feed for everyone else. If there's less than, I think I'm on as a participant. Oh, can you send Laura the right link? Oh, she's deleting it. Okay. If there's less than 10 people on here, I think I'll just send everyone the Hangout link. Okay, Laura's watching.
You should send everybody the Hangout link and first come, first serve.
That might be a good idea. Okay.
It's like getting that sweet parking spot at work.
Close. Click the link above to join us. Okay, so I put the link in the chat. So if you guys want to join, first 10 people that join, so we have all the speakers now, so we're good. So yeah, Dave, actually your input would be helpful here. So yeah, first 10 people that join, you're in. Oh, there's a slight delay, so he'll join later. All right, guys, so yeah, thanks for coming to the project call. It's fun having you here. So the last one we had, I did the same thing, but I didn't give anyone else a speaker link. I actually didn't know how to find the speaker link. So it was me talking to myself for an hour, and it was very awkward. So I'm really glad you guys are here. Yay.
Okay, we'll talk to you.
Thank you so much. And I'm hoping this will be more of a conversation, and we can talk about the project and where we want it to go and what we need to do next. Yeah, Dave hasn't joined us yet. Maybe I'll put this link up higher. And then... join us in the Hangout. First come, first served. Hey, David Bill joined. Hey! David's in Chicago.
Hello.
And he's done a lot of work with badges on the Hive side. Yeah. So if anyone's watching us, feel free to put your name under new volunteers if you want.
You're muted? Or it's just me?
No. I think Ab is having a technical.
Uh-oh, Abby.
Just close Chrome and reopen it. It's your only choice.
See, told you should come to this place. Nature would boost up your Wi-Fi. Maybe just unplug your mic.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Oh, okay. So my earbud stopped working. Sorry, guys. Okay. So first I'll do a little demo of what we do have right now for the Badges project. Oh, look, Caitlin's here. Hi. So here we are. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So we're exploring the use of digital badges for crediting contributors to scholarly papers for their work. You know how sometimes you have a paper and there's like 50 authors, you don't know who did what? So this way you can say that this author did the analysis, this author did data collection. You can add a little bit more information to, yeah, just a regular badge or a regular authorship. So just adding that back. Actually, Dave, Ali, can you mute yourself? There's a lot of background noise.
Sorry.
Okay. So what we have right now, it's just a simple landing page just so you can explore badges and issue badges. These are the different badges we have. We have images for almost all of them. But if you click on any of them, you see a little JSON of of what the badges are, what they are underneath. So this is using the Open Badges standard so we can integrate a little bit more with the other badge systems. So now we can try issuing a badge. So if we go there, it takes us to the issue badge page, but I'm not logged in. So it'll forward me to ORCID, and then I'm just going to click sign in and put in my email and password, click authorize. I hope that's the right password. Yes. And there, so now it pre-fills my ORCID. So I can add a paper DOI. This is the one I've been testing against. So I've done many things to this, this paper. Let's say I did funding for this paper. Submit it, and I get some JSON. So this isn't the greatest UI right now because we're just testing. If I go back to PaperBadger and then I go under funding, these are all the badges we have under funding, and one of them should be me. And yeah, so this is the one that I just made right now on that paper. So we're issuing badges. It gets stored inside PaperBadger. So the, and then we have all these different endpoints where you can look at the formal analysis badges, what we were at. You can look at all badges for a certain user. So I think this is, yeah, that's me. And you can look at all badges for a certain paper under investigation, or, yeah. So you can just sort of browse through all the badges, and that's being stored now. So on our roadmap, I'll just go through this pretty quickly. So this is stuff that we're working on right now, but we'll hear more from the other people as we go on. So yeah, feel free to ask me questions, interrupt while I'm talking. But right now we're working on, so we've done we've done the ORCID authentication, which is great. There's still a little bit more integration for pushing things back to ORCID, I think, later on. BadgeKit API integration, that was a lot of what I did before the sprint. So we had to do a few things. We'll probably talk about this when we talk about the ORCID stuff. But to issue badges to an ORCID ID instead of an email address, we had to do some workarounds. But we really did want to use badge kits that we use that open badge standard, and we can, so we can integrate with other badges around the world. And then the badge issuing process, we did a little bit of this with the going to the issuing, and then it makes you log in with ORCID. But we would like a better form for when authors come, so it's easier for them to select which badges they did, and that they can only issue badges to papers they've actually authored. And that will be set by the publisher. So the workflow we're going to try to implement for our first, our MVP, is that the publisher will fill out a form. So this will be Amy at BMC just sitting down and filling it out, saying this is the ORCID for each of the authors. this is the DOI for the paper we're issuing on. She'll press submit, and then each author will be able to select which badges they have on that, and then it will issue badges to them as they go. So these are just the different parts for the interface for the publishers, the form, the function on submission, so that, yeah, so it'll notify the authors that they can get badges, and then building that interface for the authors. So this is what we've done the most work on so far. So it sends them to ORCID right now. I made a very quick landing page, something to do. And then Austin worked a lot on testing, so he'll be talking about that. And I actually also did a lot, at BMC. He couldn't make this call, though. And then these are some things that people can jump in on right now, also that we're not really working on. So designing the badges, how will these be displayed, and making little snippets so that we can visualize these a little bit better instead of just our JSON. Yeah. So, and then longer term, more like publisher integration, and yeah, getting into the submission system. So we're not worrying too much about that yet. But that's what's up for the roadmap. And we did the demo at GitHub. Can you get badges for specific person or paper? Yeah. So right now in our, here. So here, these are all the badges for this ORCID right here. So this is all the badges for this person. So you can get them. Right now it's just JSON, but we can easily write a JavaScript snippet to turn this into something nicer. Yeah, so you can get that. And then for a paper, right now it's not implemented to get badges for paper because of how BadgeKit API is working. That's one of the roadmap issues here. Fetch badge instance by DOI, because, yeah, so we do have an issue on BadgeKit. Let's see if it's getting worked on. Yes, it's still there. But we can get it. It'll just be it's really inefficient right now. I'll have to get all badges and then filter for the paper. I can't fetch from BadgeKit API yet on just the paper. There's a contractor is going to be hired soon. I think they're starting right after Whistler, maybe, to work on BadgeKit API, and yeah, they're going to work on the different issues that I've put on. So let's see. Oh, I mean person and paper together. Yes, you can. Where did? Oh, here it is. Sorry, I can't look at the questions and go through this at the same time. Here it is. This one's the DOI. Here it's in the URL. And then users, and then my, actually no, it's this one up here. Then my ORCID, and then /badges. So this will get all the badges for me on this paper. And I was testing on it, so I have a lot of badges on this paper. So you can do that. Which publishers are participating in the MVP? So we have, we've been talking a lot with Amy from BMC. I think PLOS is also in the discussions. Yeah, so open access publishers. Yay. Okay. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions, please write them here, or you guys can say them out loud. But now let's hear from Austin on what you did with the testing. Because you did a lot of changes. Hang on, I'll stop sharing. Screen sharing. Yeah, so Austin, if you can unmute yourself, that would be great.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Austin Davis-Richardson. I'll just introduce myself. I'm a microbiology PhD candidate at the University of Florida, and I do a lot of data analysis type of stuff, and I saw this project, so I wanted to participate. But I don't really know Node.js very well, so I couldn't really just jump in and start making great changes. So a good way to get used to a new project is to start writing tests for it. So I thought maybe a good way for me to get into Node and to work on this project. So can I share my screen?
Yeah, so you should be able to on the left-hand side. It says screen share.
All right. Okay, so my contribution was to write a bunch of tests. So basically, now you can run npm tests, and it will run some tests. So I added a test framework using Mocha, and I mostly wrote tests for the helper functions, and this just tests a few functions. There aren't really a lot of tests currently. The more important tests are probably the API tests. So this is testing PaperBadger, the front end's interaction with BadgeKit API. And me and I are still working on those. Originally, well, we're still playing around with how we're going to implement those tests. I started using this thing called knock, which is a way of mocking the BadgeKit API so that you don't actually have to have a running BadgeKit API server to run the tests. So this gets around some issues like if you have to set up a test API server or have an internet connection or something like that to run the tests. But I found that it wasn't really working very well, so I think me and I are going to change it back to running an actual instance of the PaperBadger API, and I think that will simplify writing a lot of the tests. So that's where that's at. And I also added Travis, because Travis is really fun. So Travis will, whenever somebody pushes code or submits a pull request, Travis will take that code and run the tests and make sure that the build passes and put a nice little icon on the actual pull request, letting you know that it's okay to merge. But there aren't that many tests yet, so it's not yet really a great indicator that the code's going to work once you merge it. But it's a start. So that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, something I didn't quite understand with knock when you put it in, I didn't understand like what data you would be testing if it was a mock server. How does knock work?
You actually you provide it with the JSON or whatever the response would be. It could be like HTML, and it doesn't run an actual HTTP server. It just kind of intercepts the GET request before it goes to an actual server, and then sends back whatever response that you provide in the test. So you can do things like put things in the HTTP headers or give it data. So that's how you're supposed to run the tests with knock. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's helpful because I know when we're running that, it's like, oh, there's no data, but it's not a real server, so that made sense to me. And it's like, oh, what are we testing? But yeah, if you actually supplement it, that makes sense. I think that's also the problem I was running into, because he was running tests, but then he was like, oh, but there's no data.
Yes, that's why I'm thinking of trying something else besides knock, because yeah, I was trying to make tests that should fail and they wouldn't fail, and like funny stuff was happening. It's probably just because I'm not a very good Node programmer, so I'm probably doing something stupid. But
I'm happy to help if you need help. I think I might be able to.
Yeah. I would appreciate any help on that.
Sure.
Or if you could just recommend some.
We use I can't remember the name of the framework, but I mean sorry, the library that will mock a server and WebMaker app. But I will look into that and then we'll let you know.
Have you used knock before, Ali?
We're not using knock, but we're using something very similar for the login server where we need to like mock a server, so it's not really like running an instance of another login.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I could look into that and then let you know and help you with that.
The concept makes sense, but yeah, if it's not working.
I found that like that level of unit testing that's conflated with integration testing often is too confusing to get it to work well. So I don't know. From my just general software experience, write good unit tests, which are very self-contained, or write full-blown, crazy user interfacing, full-on integration tests, Selenium or something else. That halfway state is definitely hard to get right.
Yeah.
I would definitely like to add some tests where the whole browser is simulated. I guess those are integration tests, because they cover all of the code at once, which is nice.
Yeah. But yeah, you did some great work there, Austin. I had a lot of fun with Travis. It was like, look, it runs automatically. It was very exciting. It's like magic. But
okay, well, I guess I need to look. If anyone has any questions? on the Mozilla pad. Okay, well, that's it.
Also, I wanted to ask, did you look at I's pull request?
Sorry. Oh, no. I don't remember actually right now.
No, it's okay. All right.
Okay.
Rob or Will, do you guys either of you want to talk through the ORCID stuff?
The ORCID stuff. It was relatively straightforward, so I kind of had to figure it out. I don't really do a lot of Node, but I do a little bit, and so I knew enough, and I knew enough about our authentication service that I can figure it out. Essentially, it's a really small bit of code for you guys. So what part of it would you like me to talk through? I guess I got to look up what I actually added.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful if you just go through the part you actually added.
What was that module you used there, right? Simple OAuth or something like that?
Okay, so simple OAuth. It kind of is what it says. Unfortunately, I had to fork it to work with our authentication service, and I pushed changes to their repo. And when they merge them, we can either go back to using their actual NPN hosted one, or the other thing we're doing is I decided on ORCID to make our authentication service a little more streamlined. So one issue we have with our ORCID authentication service is the user approves the request on one domain, and a client actually redeems the request on a different domain. And for a lot of these libraries, they don't realize that's a pattern that can happen. They assume everything's on the same domain. So I had to fork it to support 2 domains. So I don't know, in the next 3 weeks or something, I'll submit a pull request that either we revert back to using their main simple OAuth library, or that's basically it. Or the pull request will have a different configuration that uses the same domain for both the user approval and redeeming the token, or redeeming the code for the token. So anyhow, it's the ORCID OAuth service. It's just like any other OAuth 2 service. It's relatively straightforward. The user goes off, they click approve in the browser. The browser will redirect back to PaperBadger with a code. PaperBadger takes that code and redeems it for a token. And so if you look at the code itself, let me find it. You'll just see that we set the client credentials. So that would be, let me get the
app.js.
Yeah. So yes. So we just set the credentials. We create an instance of the simple OAuth 2 client. So it's just a real easy to use library. After that, the client produces authorization URI. That's the URL you send users to approve. And then we have a callback. So on line 47, there's the ORCID OAuth callback. And basically what the callback does is it gets the code. So on line 49, you'll see it from the URL parameters. It grabs the code and then does a bunch of nifty node callbacks to either redirect the person if they had denied it to a denial page, or redeem the code. And so, and once it's redeemed, we send them to issue a badge. So that'd be line 67. So you'll see that the response redirects to the issue URI. And the reason that is that you guys are using Ember or React. I forget which JavaScript framework.
Yeah.
So at that point, the client side framework actually checks with the server to see if there's a token, and if there is, it autofills. And that's great because that prevents people from typing in the wrong ORCID. So you'll see a lot of integrations out there where people just type in their ORCID, and it doesn't do a lot of good to type in an incorrect identifier. So here we have not only you're verifying that the person in the web browser, in fact, does have access to that ORCID, which is very nice. And from there, we might look at other services that either you guys can push, you can push metadata to us that kind of represents the badges you're issuing, or the other option is we can also read somebody's record to see what DOIs they actually have on their ORCID. Although the PaperBadger sounds primarily publisher-driven, so that's.
Yeah, we're going to try out the publisher-driven stuff. I know we talked about a few different pathways we could use, or like a few different ideas. But since we have BadgeKit, and we went through the trouble to use BadgeKit to host everything, we'll see. Yeah, things work.
Yeah.
So I had a question about the changes for simple OAuth 2. Do you have the PR you made, or did you make a PR for that?
Pull request?
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a pull request for the changes to it.
Okay.
It's let me find the repo. Pull request. There we go. So I don't know. I passed their integration, their CI service, but I don't know what their software cycle is as far as when they decide to look at the pull request.
Yeah, we did link the issue, I guess. I just found that as soon as this issue is resolved, move back. But
yeah, and the other option is ORCID is, because of this, I was frustrated because I had to do this. I was like, oh no, we're going to make this all in the same domain. So the worst case is in the next couple of weeks, we'll actually be able to support redeeming a code on the same domain that the user authorized it. And so possibly we can just go back to their library and I'll do a pull request changing just the URLs that we're using with the library.
Okay. Cool. Will, did you have anything? I know you jumped into React actually, Will.
I tried to, yes. But yeah, I was in a similar position to Austin, really trying to get up to speed with all the Node.js and related stuff. Yeah, no, I was going to say we didn't get as far as showing badges in ORCID on someone's ORCID record, and the question there really is: should the badges be pushed into ORCID, or should ORCID pull the badges in, knowing the ORCID ID obviously and DOIs potentially? We could do it with ORCID ID and DOI, or just with ORCID. Pull them in and then show them on the users.
Yeah, I know Laura sent out the endpoint where we could push an ORCID if that gets implemented, if we want to do that.
Yeah. So.
Well, I know on the publisher side, they don't want to store this, so that's why we are using BadgeKit, so we can just use our API to display the things, like on the front end using JavaScript. So the plan, Amy, is we'll just give them a JavaScript snippet, and then it will display all the badges for that paper.
Well, that's interesting, because I guess in theory we could, one approach would be for ORCID to do the same thing and use the same snippet. But it's kind of a slightly different way around, because they want the badges for a paper and we want the badges for a person, for a bunch of papers. But
those endpoints, though.
Yeah, right. So yeah, so that would be nice. The other thing I wanted to say, which was maybe a question from myself or from Rob, is that can is it possible? Is it secure? The user signs in with ORCID, but are the APIs actually? Is it possible to spoof badges or create badges for someone else, or that kind of thing? I'm not sure if we've. I have no reason to think it is possible to do that, but as far as I know, we haven't kind of investigated that or tested that in any way, unless Austin has written some tests for that already. There's kind of bad scenarios where somebody's trying to do something they shouldn't, and it would be good to do that before we take the next steps, I guess.
In other apps, I've tested, users trying to do something that they're not supposed to. But I'm not really like a security computer hacker guy, so I can only go so far with that.
Well, yeah, I don't think it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be super secure, just the kind of basics. Because it's not, we're not writing a banking application. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just kind of, sanity check that we haven't.
I believe that they're pulling the ORCID ID. We're storing the ORCID ID in the session. Because I wrote to store in the session, so the ORCID ID is stored server side, and if they modify it, if they try to modify it client side, we should be throwing an error or just overriding it with the correct ORCID.
Yeah.
And I believe I thought I saw code that did that already. Abigail, did you guys?
Let me think.
Read the code real quick.
The sprint was a while ago. Yeah, so we pass it from the session over. I think if it doesn't match when they push. I remember. Oh yeah, so I started doing that where they had to be authenticated on the back end to issue the badge, but since the front end is doing it, it didn't. Yeah, I couldn't pass the session, so that's why we pre-fill it. Where's my post?
Oh, so you guys send an API call from the browser to the badge kit issuer?
Yeah, so it's just the form when it gets submitted. So that's from the browser side to here. So might not be the best direction. I think since we chose React, we have like the separate client and backend. Yeah, so it's whatever is sent in the post request, actually. That's what gets sent. But yeah, throwing an error would be a good idea there. If there's some way to verify that it's actually them on the back end. Yeah, I think maybe having this issuing page not in React would be more secure. I know, Ali, if you have any insight on that. You have more React experience.
I think I don't really have much contacts, but we should try to verify or authenticate mostly on the server side, because user would not be able to disable the JavaScript and then they could do something fishy there. I honestly need to look at the code and then try to understand what's going on there. I might be able to give you something because I've been working on OAuth 2 and the new login server for the Mozilla WebMaker. So I might be able to help with that, but I just need more context.
Yeah, I would suggest the React is it's fine. The issue is any post requests we should just proxy them through the server.
Yeah, so we should not do any authentication on the client side at all. Client side should just be sending it to the server, and then we do everything in the server.
Yeah, but I mean that should really just be kind of changing on the client side, just changing a couple URLs to do the same thing against your URL, and then on the server side, writing a little service that proxies those requests and verifies like certain fields are what they say they are, or throws an error.
Yeah. I know that would work a lot better. Yeah, that's not what we're doing right now. So.
Okay, well, put that on the roadmap.
Yeah. Yeah, we were building this pretty quickly. Okay. We'll add that to the roadmap.
Obviously, yeah, it's a prototype, so that's fine. But yeah, it'd be good to have a look at that before we make it into a bit more than just a prototype. So cool.
Also, with Orchid, yeah, I know there was some confusion with like the Orchid emails. That was for BatchKit API, so that we could use it. So we don't, yeah, it's not the best hack.
So with that BatchKit API, what's the process for us like promoting a new set of fields that they issue against, right? Because email is not one we want to issue against. Question.
Yeah. So there's no plan right now for them to allow to issue against anything other than an email address. And right now they don't have anyone maintaining the code base, but someone's starting soon. So I have made issues on all the things that we do need. So one's like issuing against an Orchid, and then the other's like being able to fetch by the evidence, so that our evidence is the paper DOI. So right now I can't actually fetch anything from this. It's really inefficient if I want to filter by a paper. It works, but it won't scale. So those are a couple of the things that I want them to do for the next release. So someone's starting soon, but for workarounds right now, yeah, we're issuing to an email based on an Orchid. Yeah, and we fetch everything and then filter for paper when we want it. So it's not the best system, but it does give us, the open badge standard, which I think will be useful down the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
One small thing is I was thinking of changing the config for PaperBadger a little bit. So after you guys' code sprint, I started digging into some other stuff, and there's a sample of what I think the config could look like. And essentially, it's just a little node module that has a default config, and then it'll loop through and check for environment variables where it's different. And what it allows is one-step deployment for developers. So you just you tell developers, oh, check this out, fire it up, it'll work. And then when you're going to other environments, then you can add environment variables in Heroku or whatever to actually overwrite the values.
Mm-hmm. Ali, you did some work with the config stuff with Habitat?
Yep. It's similar to what you just said there, except I think I need to add one more thing to do exactly what you just said, which is default config to just get the server running, but if you want to change it because of the other server like Heroku, or you're using Windows or something else, and then you just want to change it so that it will work on your local machine, this thing called Habitat will allow you to do exactly the same. I think I just did a minimal integration there. I just need to add a few more things to make it work with a default config, so you could just like run without having to fork the config file and get confused because there's so many things over there. This is a good thing for people who just want to jump in and get started right away. I will try to get into that and make pull requests once I have time. I think sometime next week, hopefully. Yeah, that's for the Habitat. I'm not sure if you're also referring to something else other than what I just said.
Habitat.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Habitat just loads environment variables from a text file, right?
Yeah, it's you could. I think you could just say that. Yeah. The nice thing about Habitat, though, it's that it will process the file, and then if you have Boolean, for instance, with process.env. Whatever that config name, and then you set it to true. By default, Node it will parse it as a string, but Habitat will parse it and give it as Boolean. So you don't have to like do triple equal to evaluate first, in order to get your value. So Habitat will do all that work for you, which is nice. And then you can have the default config, your secret config. That way, if you want to change something, you don't have to commit the file to the upstream. So that's the nice of the Habitat.
Yeah, but you make a good point about the workflow, Rob. Yeah, making it easier for new people to come in is really helpful. So I think when we introduced Habitat, it took out the source.env step. That yeah, I think both Austin and I ran into that. Oh.
So is it possible to use Habitat and the other config that Robert posted? Can those two things work together? Is that?
Yeah, totally. Habitat also should be able to access your like if you export some variable into your own process, Habitat should also be able to access those too.
Yeah, no, if Habitat's a better hammer, use it. This other thing is just a tiny module I hand wrote, and it relies on export variables, which for doing server config can be a little tedious versus being able to put down a file that's always there and easy to read. Although I think with Heroku you won't be able to put down a file anyway. You have to do exports.
Yeah,
so,
and then Habitat will be able to read those as well.
Yeah, so I just didn't know about Habitat, so I'll go look it up.
Yeah. Well, we could probably drop this in now, but I think we'd lose a little bit of what Habitat does with like Windows. Yeah, Ali's next actually to talk about Habitat on the agenda.
Which I pretty much covered, I guess. I mean, it's just a tiny library made by one of a former Mozillian here at Mofo. Brian Lovesworth. I'm not sure if you know him, but yeah, he did that. Yeah, we use it across all of our projects because we have a very complex environment variables, and our staging it's on Heroku, and then our production is on another server. So we always have to make sure we'll be able to use different environment variables. But Habitat solves all those problems. So it's simple, like reading something from your process or a text file, and then you'll be able to run and then get that working. Yeah, that's pretty much about Habitat.
Did you want to talk about the other stuff you did with the Beautify or with React?
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple thing. It's just I have that on my own website. I have a lot of code examples, and I thought you guys also need that because when I worked with Abby or review her code, and I'm like, oh man, that's hard to read, and I know she's very busy, and you guys doing awesome work. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna contribute to the project because science, right? Yeah, and now it's lovely. The nice thing about it is if you want to make a get or post, get request, you just use the regular REST API route. But if you want to show it to someone or see it on your screen, you just add that query string. I think it's pretty. I'm not sure. I can't remember. And it will just give you a nice parsed JSON with some syntax highlight, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm sharing that now.
Yeah.
So just if you're exploring and looking at the API endpoints, so no one has the resources badge. It looks a little better now. Before it was just straight up JSON, and it was a little hard to read. So
yeah,
this is what we did.
We could theme it with another color if you like, but it's just feature.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what I did. Small patch, nothing much.
Thanks, Ali.
No problem.
Yeah, so thank you all for your help during the mod sprint. That was really helpful, and we got a lot done, so that was really exciting. Yay. So, yes, we have a lot to do still. Yes, we'll work on those things. I think we're going to have another meeting like this in a month. And maybe we'll try to merge in a different other projects within Mozilla Science Lab with this. So it's more like if you want to write code for the Science Lab or with the Science Lab, join in. But this is our big one right now, so it'll probably be mostly this project. So we have a few outstanding pull requests, mostly. Oh yeah, there's a couple for me where don't return the email address to the client. Oh yeah, that was just to hide the fake Orchid email from the client, so we're only using it in the back end. And then, yes, Orchid sometimes ends with an X. I did not know that, but then Rob, thank you for sharing that to check some stuff. So does that mean we can actually verify whether it's a real Orchid?
Well, it's a checksum, so you can verify whether it would be a valid Orchid.
Yeah. Fine.
But yeah, the best verification is just the authentication process.
That's true.
We have now, so.
Yay. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we don't need to verify. So, yeah. Yay. Thanks for that input. Okay. And also Kelly, I see you're on the call. Did you want to say anything before we end the call?
Sorry, was that me?
No, Kelly. That's okay. I don't know if she's listening. Oh, she's just watching. Oh, the kids are noisy, so she's muted. All right. Well, thanks for joining, Kelly. And if you have any comments on like how you want to help or what you're interested in, write it down in the Etherpad. And under new volunteers, we have Peter Cracker. They're launching an awareness campaign for open science in Austria. And the badges may be very useful for them. Yeah. Cool. So Peter, I think he's just watching. That's cool. Yeah. We'll keep in touch. Thanks for putting in your GitHub and Twitter. Okay. And that's good for now. Thanks for all your help. We'll keep working. Yes, I think we have enough to work on now for the next month. But thanks, guys. Actually, so I'll be there next time. I'll be back home in Toronto, where it's a reasonable hour to have a video call. But, so yeah, thanks all for joining.
Excellent. Thanks, Abby. Bye.